tipping is based. You know, I saw this video going around. I haven't actually seen the video. I've just kind of seen other people reacting to it, and, you know, comments about it, etc. It's got almost 1 million views in 5 days about tipping culture. It seems to be anti-tipping culture, anti-tipping being kind of enforced upon people in restaurants and services, potentially expanding into new categories like food delivery and grocery delivery and the other areas and avenues that tipping is moving into. I'm pretty passionate about the fact that tipping is good for the economy, good for the worker, good for the consumer, and just all around amazing. And so I figured we can watch this video, whether it's super pro, super against, or somewhere in between. We can dispel some of the myths and kind of just have a conversation about it as we go through this. I don't know much about this person, Degenerocity. He looks to be like a meme account of some sort, slash personality YouTuber. Seems to be fairly big. I mean, obviously he is. I don't know why I said seems, like 1.4 million. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to see more reaction videos than as opposed to just our debates or some of the panels that we do, you know, then like, share, subscribe, you know, leave a comment, let us know how you think about this, or if there's other videos or things you'd like to see me debunk, especially if it's, you know, from lefties. I like debunking lefties. I like debunking righties too, though. You see some dumb stuff there. So let us know. And yeah, and without further ado, let's get going.
A generous act of courtesy you do when you're more than satisfied with the service you were providing, and you give them a little extra money. Usually you give these to your servers at restaurants, your barber, and strippers, just as a way of telling them you're doing a good job. Go get yourself a nice pair of undies. And this overall thing is practiced all around the world. It's not exactly a foreign concept for anybody. Tipping is a normal thing, but no place on earth.
Yeah, I do like the hard cut editing style. So far, editing is good. All right. But so far he's just saying tipping is common.
Let's give out the tip more than the US of A. We go X Games mode with the tipping over here, cause we be giving everybody tips. We tip our delivery drivers, taxis, bellhops, housekeeping, house movers, bartenders. If you're an in-person service, then most likely you accept tips. Even my homie's last job at the gas station, where he just pumped people's gas, he got over $100 in tips in one day.
Real talk, I love tips, all right? And I feel like we're about to have this conversation, right? Yeah, tipping is super common in America. Can we just say for the record though that, like, companies that don't let their employees accept tips, like, go fuck yourself. Like, when I go to a company and there's like, you know, oh, do you accept tips? And they're like, no, I'm not allowed to do that. Like, man, get over yourself. Like, let me pay people. Like, come on.
I didn't even know people tip for that. We love to tip everybody except the homeless, but has it gone too far? Let me go off real quick, but I've been seeing tipping options where I've never seen them before, like counter services, you know, cashiers. I've never heard of tipping cashiers, but those blue blocks on the iPad beg to differ. One time I went to a concert and I went to the merch booth. I got a hoodie, bro handed me the hoodie, then turned around his iPad for a tip. Now I know these people don't get paid too well, but what in that interaction concurred a tip? Did he slip me $100 bill in a hoodie that I didn't see? I don't think so. So nah, I don't think I'm gonna tip, but I would usually.
Yeah, I mean, so the question is it wrong in an economy where the currency that we're using is moving towards crypto, hopefully not central banking digital currencies, but, like, at the very least, you know, we've been using debit cards and credit cards for basically every interaction. People aren't really using cash that much more, and you have to sign a little thing. Like, what is wrong with the tipping function for a cashier or for, you know, someone that sells items? I mean, if you think about it, there already was a kind of pseudo tipping system that was baked into the very example he gave with jackets. You know, a lot of people that work in high end retail are making consignments, right? They're making, it's not a tip per se. It's not gratuity, but they're making a percentage of the sale based off of how well they sell you. And so therefore they're incentivized to do so. And that is baked into the price of the merchandise, right? When you're, if an employee is making $20 off of a $200 hoodie, right? Then the cost of that is part of the hoodie, right? It is part of the operating expenses of the business to recognize that if they purchase a hoodie from a vendor, for $150 and they stand to make $50 profit, well, actually, $20 is going to go to the person. That's $30 profit, operating expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, until they get to the end to determine exactly what percentage of the sale is profit, beyond the revenue minus all the expenses. So I don't really see the problem with the idea of tipping at an establishment like that. I mean, maybe as we get over, he'll have some things to say that like makes a convincing argument, but I think the data clearly shows that tipping is good for a lot of other reasons, which I'll explain later.
CDs and local businesses most of the time, so that's all fine and dandy. But I've heard Starbucks is also doing tips. Now, I don't really go to Starbucks because it's just not for me. I like my coffee.
What do you mean you heard Starbucks was doing? Starbucks has been doing tips forever. Like baristas live off of, like what? Okay. I mean, how else are the gender studies master degree holders going to make a living to pay off their student loans than if you tip at Starbucks?
A certain way. I like my coffee how I like my men. Long, black, and Vietnamese. And no offense to you Starbucks employees out there, but I'ma treat y'all like McDonald's and Burger King. Like, why would I tip the drive-through cashier? That just sounds unnecessary. And as long as those restaurants...
Right, he just showed Sonic, a Sonic employee, that another individual that is known for getting tips.
Restaurants are not asking for tips, then I'm never gonna tip. Don't get no ideas, please. However, I understand why these workers would want a tip, though. They work low-wage jobs, and sometimes they got families to take care of at home, so a tip or two would make their lives a little bit easier. But I'm selfish. I'm not trying to tip at Wendy's, bro. But I know that day will eventually come. I can smell it. This is the US. We'll somehow incorporate tipping into everything, so the employers can justify why they're paying their employees minimum wage. And whenever someone doesn't tip, they get mad at us instead of the business that's giving them a non-living wage. That's why.
Yep. And so this is where the bad commie kind of rhetoric comes in from people that don't understand basic economics. It's the business's fault that tips exist, and that tips are bad because the person that really should be paying the employee is the employer. Okay, well, here's the funny thing. If I'm a DoorDash driver and tips aren't allowed and tips aren't expected, okay, then the business is going to have to pay me more in order for me to work at that establishment. And if the business has to pay me more in order to work at that establishment, then the business has to charge more in order to make a profit, because tips aren't calculated by the employer as part of their operating costs, right? It's bonus money that you give to the employee. But if tips are gone, then they have to pay employees more in order to get employees to show up. And then once they get employees to show up and they're paying them more, well, that means that their operating costs have increased, which means they have to charge you more for food. So if you can complain all you want about the business not paying the employee the money that you feel is right so that they can justify paying them minimum wage. But if they're making tips, then, right, then the food is cheaper because of this. There's this weird mythology that exists within our society that like the capitalist sits atop like a pile of money, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, restaurants are a great example of this because of the fact that this is where tipping is basically perfunctory. And we know that 60% of restaurants fail in their first year, 80% of restaurants fail within 5 years. Only 20% of restaurants succeed as businesses, right? These aren't fat cat, these aren't, I mean, sure, you wouldn't say that about Uber, which by the way, loses money almost every year, right? You wouldn't say that about DoorDash, which by the way, loses money each year, right? Hold on. Let me come up with an example of where tipping isn't, you wouldn't say that about Starbucks. Okay, Starbucks is super profitable. Starbucks can afford to pay people more money and then get rid of the tipping function, I guess. But if the tipping function stays there and the culture of tipping stays there, and they pay their employees more, what you're going to end up with is more expensive coffee and still an expectation of tipping. And if the expectation of tipping goes away and our society stops tipping, then what will occur is that employees will lose money until they demand that money from their employers, or they move to a new establishment to work at, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, as the market balances, what you will find is that your products are more expensive. The fact of the matter, I'll wait for it and I'll go into it more, but like, I want to talk about marginal utility, some basic economic theory that this guy obviously doesn't know. But it's a problem within society. This anti-tipping is so bad for our culture and our economy.
Why tipping is super pushed. So restaurants, for example, can pay their waiters low salaries to encourage them to aim for tips. So the waiters have to be as upstanding, top of their tippy toes, holly jolly of a worker as possible to try to get ends meet. So the customer...
To try to get ends to meet. This is such a like Gen Z doomer-pilled, like nonsense, non-reality view of the world. I mean, I just explained that an overwhelming majority of restaurants fail, a majority of which fail within the first year, right? And yeah, they're trying to get people to work hard. So let me explain restaurant workers in a way that maybe people could better understand. So there's this concept in economics called, I'm going to center this one because we need to talk about this. So there's this concept called marginal utility, okay? A marginal revolution in economics. And so basically, marginality within economics is a really simple concept. Okay, you go to the grocery store and you buy a loaf of bread for, let's say, $1, right? Now, you're not going to buy a second loaf of bread for $1. And the reason is because you only really want one loaf of bread. So one loaf of bread is worth $1 to you, but the second loaf of bread isn't worth your next $1. However, let's say it's buy one, get one 50% off. You might buy 2 loaves of bread. All of a sudden, even though that second loaf of bread wasn't worth $1, it was worth to you more than 50 cents. This is buy one, get one half off, right? For 50 cents, you'll take a loaf of bread, you'll throw it in the freezer because you got some freezer space. You'll freeze it so that it doesn't go bad. And when you get low on the first loaf of bread, you'll pull the second one out of the freezer. All of a sudden, that's marginality, right? Is that as more things are purchased, as you grab more of a thing, they become less valuable over time than one individual item. Now, the same thing occurs with employees. So if I work at McDonald's and I hire a janitor for McDonald's, right? This person, they have, this person is the cleaner, janitor, whatever for a McDonald's or for a Walmart. It doesn't matter. Pick whatever company, but we'll go with McDonald's for now. Just make it easy. Now, that janitor can only clean so much in a day. Right? Maybe we'll say it's for 10 McDonald's or something. They drive around just to make it easy, right? So they have to prioritize what they clean. So when there's only one janitor, what they'll do is they'll clean the bathrooms because the bathrooms is worth a lot of money to the business to have clean. Because if people come in and they go to the bathroom and it's like there's poo-poo all over the walls and like it's disgusting and it smells like pee, people will leave. They'll never eat at the restaurant again. So we'll say that's worth to the company about $20 an hour. It's worth $20 an hour to go in terms of how much money isn't lost because of the clean bathrooms versus how much money is lost by the establishment because of dirty bathrooms. So they'll pay a janitor $20 an hour to clean the bathrooms. Now, there are other things that need to be cleaned at the McDonald's. The trash needs to be taken out. You don't want overflowing trash. It's disgusting. People will leave. You don't want dirty tables in the lobby. You don't want gum underneath the tables. You don't want greasy floors. But none of these things are worth $20 an hour that the bathroom cleaning thing is. So if I hire a second janitor, the marginal utility demands that I actually pay both janitors less, because the janitor job is not worth $20 an hour, because there's only one job of $20 an hour. So the more people you hire in a business, the less valuable everybody's labor is. Because when you have limited amounts of labor, they do the most important tasks that make the business the most money or keep the business from losing the most amount of money. And then as you add additional employees, more menial tasks or less valuable tasks are done by labor. This is true in a restaurant. And so in a restaurant, if you have one or two waitresses, they're going to be swamped. They have a lot to do. They're going to prioritize the most important things. So what does this have to do with tipping? Tipping is actually a counterbalance to the downward pressure on wages that marginal utility demands from an establishment. So if I have 10 waiters and waitresses, the dummy at the restaurant that doesn't really do much, he's kind of the standard for the pay for all of the employees. Or we could say, it's the median, right? But recognize that there are people that are doing useless jobs, and there are people that are doing really important jobs, and they all get put together as waiters and waitresses. One person might get a raise because they do more of the important work, et cetera, et cetera. But to keep it simple, there is, the more wait staff you have, the easier it is for the labor to be split, and the less valuable the labor becomes. But when you have a tipping culture and you tip, really, really good waiters and waitresses make much, much better tips. And because really good waiters and waitresses can make really good money at a restaurant, you can afford really good employees for a low cost. Okay? And so the really good employees are not punished the same way that they are in a purely salary-based system, such as the janitors, because a really, really good janitor is worth $20 an hour. But once you have 5 janitors, they're all worth $10 an hour, because not everybody can clean the bathrooms. But the guy that really busts his butt cleaning the bathrooms till they're spotless is worth $20 an hour. But again, with additional janitors added, they won't get paid that. They can't get paid that. The business can't survive paying everybody what that one guy's worth. And they might create a new job. There might be ways around that, of course. But the basic concept is still there, is that there is a downward pressure on compensation of employees because of the marginal utility. And when you have a tipping culture, there is an incentive structure there for those that work really hard to be able to have another source of income, which is the tipping, which is actually the predominant income of waiters and waitresses. And therefore, really good employees do really well and make really good money. And it's a great place. This idea that it's all poor people or the destitute, it is a great place, especially for young women that work hard, for them to make a lot of money. You can make more money as a young woman that works hard as a waitress at a decent restaurant than you could work in construction anywhere. And so this entire vision of the big bad mean employer is it's made up. It's ideological. It's nonsense, and it's not supported by any data or any understanding of economics. But we'll get back to the reaction.
Can walk away feeling happy about their experience, the owner of the restaurant being happy because of the profit and good look of the business, while the waiters walk away with a $2 tip and food stamps for a salary.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no. The average salary of wait staff is not it's nowhere near as low as minimum wage workers. I mean, my mother, for Christ's sake, works a second job, just picking up a couple hours a week doing waiting tables, and she consistently makes $100 for 2 hours of work on a busy night. And on a slow night, she makes $30 for 2 hours. It's way better money than working a minimum wage job. This idea that they're walking away with a pittance. Like, these are bad waiters and waitresses that get paid next to nothing.
Or at least that's just my theory, my game theory. Now, people that have never had a job might say, ain't that a good thing? It makes the waiters actually try to do their job well, bro. Ain't nobody want to work minimum wage, period, bro, in this economy. Doesn't matter if I'm getting tips. All it takes is one bad day of penny pinching tips to be like, well, Scoob, I guess we have to eat whatever's in the fridge tonight.
I mean, he's claiming poverty on behalf of an imaginary person that's working minimum wage. First of all, wait staff in restaurants make less than minimum wage, right? Because they make so much money tipping. They're not required to pay minimum wage. And that's how the food is so cheap. It's because everyone's expected to tip. If we got rid of the tipping, you'd pay more money. Like, it's just, there's no understanding of economics here. There's just an imaginary pretend victim and a demand for the capitalist class to pay more. It's a generation ruined by ideology that has been pushed in schools, and this person thinks they're saying something. It's disgusting.
No, I used to be a waiter. I was a waiter for weddings and other events in my late senior year, and my wage was decent, $15 an hour, and for a high school student, that's pretty good. Plus,
Dog was a waiter making $15 an hour plus tips.
Only worked on the weekends. Man, this job was gonna be a breeze. But that was only because I was a kid. I ain't need that much in the first place. All I thought is, if I can afford food, sold. But to spoil the fun, most of the time I did not get any tips or very little tips. And 95% of my gigs was at weddings, so the food was already paid for. I was given
okay. Yeah, so, but I mean, he was getting paid $15 an hour? Like, that's really good money.
These niggas free food, and I got nothing. And I was always all nice and shit. I was never mean. I was all like, hello, hot diggity day, what would you lovely people like to have? I thought I was doing a good job. I even shaved off my hair to be more presentable, which is something I still regret to this day. Don't cut the hair you love for no jobs. Unless it look like this, you might get no job with that. I did get tips sometimes. The biggest tip I've ever gotten was $40 from a table of old white women and a gay dude. And from then on, they became my target audience. I'd always pick the table with the gay niggas, cause I know they'd give me the biggest tip. And me complaining about small tips might sound like a trivial problem, but I'm talking about like in the grand scheme of things of this kind of job. Like if I was an adult with this job paying bills, taxes, rent, all that, I could not live like this.
What is this idea that, like, there's a recognition that, oh God, this is so annoying. There is a recognition that the job is not a job that is good for adults with like a mortgage and bills. Okay. The job's not good for an adult with a mortgage or bills. Like, you need a career. That job specifically isn't very good. There are better positions for those that make a career out of being a waiter or waitress. You see this in France, right? There's a very large respect in French culture for wait staff. You could, if you've been working for years as a waiter or waitress, you don't do a $15 an hour, almost never get tips wedding catering thing. No, you go work at an upscale restaurant where the checks are, anywhere between $80 to a few $100. And when you make 20% of a table, that's, a $400 bill, and you're making $80 off of one freaking table. And you make 2 or 3 of those in a night, all of a sudden you're walking away with $400, $500 a night. You're making more than strippers make. That's what you do if you're good and you work hard and you want to make waiting tables a career. And you want, most people recognize that it's not. In economic studies, back when they used to look at minimum wage studies effectively, as opposed to the trash studies that they do now, they didn't used to call them minimum wage jobs. They used to call them like, oh God, what was the term? It was, it was like teenager jobs. It was the jobs that were called minimum wage. The studies didn't call them minimum wage jobs. They called them jobs referencing the age category of people that were doing it, which was like 16 to 20-year-olds. Yeah, it's a crappy job, that teenagers with no discernible skills or work experience do, and it doesn't make a ton of money. Yeah, it's not designed for you to pay your mortgage. Why do people think that every job that exists is supposed to pay your mortgage? This is the very destructive and horrendous thing that has occurred from the idea that minimum wage is a good thing. Because minimum wage destroys jobs. There are jobs that get priced out of the market that have to be priced out of the market because they're not worth as much as the minimum wage is. One great example of that is a job that used to exist is people that would operate elevators, as well as people that were like maitre d's at movie theaters that would walk people to their seats. These are jobs that are really nice and really cool, but they're not really valuable. They're not necessary. People can seat themselves and people know how to hit a button in an elevator. I mean, now to be fair, part of the reason the elevator thing has gone away over time is that, you know, people have become less nervous about elevators. They've just become normalized. And so it's, you know, you don't really need an old guy doing it, but it was older gentlemen that were kind of, you know, that made a little extra cash that were, you know, doormen for elevators or even doormen for hotels, as well as, you know, young kids that were maitre d's at theaters that would seat people. You still see this sometimes at super upscale places, but that's because they can just, they make so much money they can just afford to throw away the money on that job. Yeah, so what ends up happening is that jobs get pushed out of the market by the minimum wage. And then politicians and activists and media moguls and, you know, your favorite singer/songwriter starts talking about how we need a living wage for the minimum wage. We need a wage that like people can pay their bills on. It's horrible that people are making $7.50 an hour. We need $15 an hour. You know, we need $20 an hour. We need $25 an hour. We need $50 an hour. How dare the rich capitalists have so much money and the poor have nothing? And it's like, I mean, yeah, a living wage is great for people that are working a job that, you know, should be an adult's job. And if they're not getting that, they should fight for, you know, wages that they feel that they've earned with their skills and their labor, and they should fight in the market for it and maybe even collectivize in a union if they so choose. But maitre d's don't need $15 an hour. Like, there are jobs that are designed for kids, and you just described one, and then you're like, but why won't it work for adults? I don't know, because that's not the freaking job, my guy. Ah, Jesus, so stupid.
I know this because I had coworkers in their late 20s, 30s, 40s who said they couldn't take care of themselves with this wage. That's why
they should go get a real job.
Sold drugs on the side. That's why we should hold these
Yeah, like you sold drugs on the side. Now you're getting it. Get a side hustle. All right.
businesses accountable to have higher wages for their employees so they don't have to rely on tips anymore. We must rise against this corrupt business practice. Who's with me?
Yeah, a bunch of commies. A bunch of commies will be with you on this stupid idea, but if you get rid of the tipping, you're just going to increase prices. The customer sets the price. It's not the business. Businesses don't set price. Businesses don't just, like, yes, they set price in the sense that they say, this is going to be $2. Okay. And then their competitor says, this is going to be $1. Okay. It's you, the consumer, that says, well, this product for $1 is essentially the same as this product for $2. So I'm going to buy this product for $1. Okay. It is you, the customer, that actually sets the price, because when the business sets a price at $2 and it's double the market value in the supply and demand equation, it's way above the supply and demand. Then they go out of they lose money. They buy a bunch of product. They do all of this stuff to put products on shelves, and then it doesn't sell and it goes on clearance, and they lose a bunch of money, and they have a bunch of product left over, and they have to slash prices, and they lose loyalty, and people end up going to other businesses, and people end up buying other products from other businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? It's you, the consumer, that sets the price. It's the market. The market is how supply is how the price works. This is why central planning doesn't work. This is why minimum wage doesn't work. It's just bad economics.
Hey, you're just saying this because you just don't want to pay tips no more. Well, duh. I don't like tipping.
Yeah, you don't like tipping. Guess what? You don't actually have to tip in these situations. But the funny thing is that if everybody stops tipping, then the product will become more expensive. So you're going to pay that amount of money no matter what, you absolute dolt. But here's the really interesting thing. You can look at surveys from creditcard.com. Yeah. And what you'll find is that rich people pay more tips than the middle class, who pay more tips than the lower class. So what's actually going to occur is that this is going to get normalized to the median, the 20%. And so what's going to happen is that poor people are going to be able to afford less, because once tipping is calculated in the price and the tipping's gone, they're not going to be able to eat out as much. They're not going to be able to afford as much coffee. And the rich are going to be able to afford more because the tipping is gone and it doesn't really bother them. But like they're saving money because now the product is more, and they feel fine doing that because, oh, well, it's a $9 cup of coffee instead of a $6 cup of coffee. It's literally just going to equalize and make it so that the rich pay less and the poor pay more. Yeah, great freaking plan.
Who does? Who wants to pay more of their own money when they don't have to? I'm not a misogynist, a masochist. Wrong word. I am the other one. I'm not saying I don't tip. I do. But mainly because I want to at least try to balance out my good deeds with my bad ones when I'm in the pearly gates. I'm not trying to go to hell because I didn't tip my IHOP waitress who so happened to be battling cancer and diabetes that one time. I'm trying to get to heaven. But if I gave zero, darns, dangs, or I would almost never tip. I would look at the bill, then pay the bill, then end it there. I would only tip if I received.
Yeah, some people do this. Those people are jerks. What about it?
Outstanding service, because most services nowadays are just average, regular stuff, nothing to point out. But you still supposed to tip. In a perfect world, I would only tip if the person is enthusiastically nice. Fast service, give me a back massage, and also pay for my food. Then I would tip. I can understand tipping delivery drivers because they also need the money to pay for their gas, but that can go with the higher wage argument that I said earlier. And if they show up mad late, then I don't have to tip them. We should bring back the 30 minutes or less, or the food.
I mean, yeah, I'm all cool with the 30 minutes or less or the stuff's free rule. People found loopholes in it too often, which presented a problem. But again, yeah, he's just kind of repeating his same asinine arguments that are devoid of any understanding of economics. I don't understand how this guy has millions of subscribers. I guess being dumb pays.
This free rule. I'd start ordering food from Russia on purpose.
Actually, I do understand. This video is really well done. As dumb as it is, it's really well done in its editing and funny.
30 minutes or less, or the food is free rule. I'd start ordering food from Russia on purpose. Save myself a stack. And like I said earlier, I know these people need these tips to survive. I know they have mouths to feed. I know. I feel you. But in the back of my mind, I know I have mouths to feed too. My own mouth. And tipping is slowly taking that away from me. Now I'm gonna starve. And remember,
tipping is not taking anything away from you. Tipping is just another means of determining price of a service. It is interchangeable with price. When the difference is that you don't actually have to pay that in order to receive the service, but over multiple interactions or multiple purchases, it balances out to an equilibrium, and that is calculated as part of the price, right? So the price of hiring a waiter is, let's say, $25 an hour at your restaurant. You're paying, like in an upscale restaurant, you're paying $5 an hour or $7 an hour. And the tips, some people are tipping, $80 on a ticket. Some people are tipping nothing. Some people are penny and diming and they're paying like $5, but it's balancing out to about, let's say, $18 an hour plus your $7 an hour. And what's occurring is that's the price. That's the price that someone needs to work at that restaurant, given their skill set, because it's an upscale place. It's going to be someone that is really good at, selling food with sizzle words, juicy and succulent steak, etc. Right? They have a lot of charisma with the guests. They're probably very attractive. They're always memorizing the menu and the ingredients. They're very good at recognizing immediately if something has gluten in it, or if something has, seashells in it, or if something has, like what ingredients are in it that people might have allergies to, right? These are all skills that you develop over time that allow you to move into an upscale restaurant. And that upscale restaurant, the price is $25 an hour, just because they're paying, the server $7 an hour. That's still their price. And so if you get rid of that tips, I don't know how many times I have to say this because it's just so stupid that he's repeating this line over and over again. If you get rid of that tip, then what's going to occur is that the restaurant, in order to survive, remember I said 80% of restaurants fail in 5 years, 60% fail in the first year, right? In order to survive, they're going to have to, if the average tip is 20%, or let's say 18%, they're going to have to increase prices 18%. You're not saving any money. You're not having more money in your own mouth to feed by getting rid of tipping. You're just changing the tip to price in that you're purchasing. It's silly. The only difference is that the really, really, really good waiters are going to get paid the same as the bad waiters. And it's going to take longer for that to turn around. And if they're in competition with people that maintain tipping, the good wait staff is going to go to the place where tipping is, because they all prefer tipping. They don't want to be paid $20 an hour if they're really fucking good at their job. They want to go somewhere where they get tips. And so what you're going to find is that places where tipping is where you're going to get the best service. Places without tipping is going to be awful.
Earlier when I said
it's going to become Shoney's.
Tipping is not a foreign concept. Well, apparently it is to most countries. Every time I look in the comment section for a post regarding tipping, 90% of the comments will be from foreigners saying, well, over here in Timbuktu, Jumanji land, we never even heard of tipping. I didn't even know Jumanji was a real place, but it sounds like heaven if they don't tip. And it makes me think the people of the U.S. here are purposely fucking me with this tipping shit. It's to be expected we tip 20 to 25% of the bill here. You have a better chance pulling a gun on me and robbing me, because that's the only way you're gonna get that much money out of me. And I've been seeing.
Yeah, it's actually funny because referencing the study from creditcards.com, the wealthy pay about 25%, the median pay about 20%, and the poor pay about 15%. Given the amount of subscribers, 1.38 million, I'm assuming he's at least in the median. And so if he's saying getting 20 to 25% tip out of him is insane, while also saying that he tips well because he wants to get into heaven, he's kind of proving that he doesn't tip well and that he's cheap, and that he's not one of the good guys. He's one of the people that people dislike because he doesn't tip very well. It's kind of funny. I'm sure this guy has plenty of money. Oh man, it's funny. You're a bad tipper on top of making really dumb arguments. You're bad at tipping. Great editing though, good comedy.
Seeing news reports about how there's a spread of self-checkout machines with tipping options. Who the hell am I tipping, Mr.?
I mean, so another thing, while I do think that's kind of silly because customarily tipping is associated with the service that you're getting, and that's usually like the individual. If you go to a restaurant, for example, and you give a tip, many places will have tip share. And what that means is that the busboy that cleans up your table that you never see, well, he gets some of your tip, or she. And the people that work in the back of the kitchen, they get some of your tip. The hostess that may or may not have likely seated you, but you kind of forgot about, she's going to get some of your tip. That's what sharing tips is. And so if you're at a business with a self-checkout and there is a tipping option, who the hell is getting it? Well, it's the busboys. It's the people in the back of the kitchen. It's the hostess. Or if Walmart's your example, though, Walmart's the biggest employer in America, I guess. Walmart's pretty skeezy. I hate Walmart. For other reasons and other things that they do. But if we're going to use Walmart as an example, it'd be the people stocking the shelves. It'd be the people working in the warehouse. It'd be the people that greeted you at the front of the door. right? These are all part of what is necessary to provide the shopping environment that allowed you to do this. And the company can charge you more money and pay them more, or the company can offer tips. And those people that feel like tipping, that have more expendable money, can pay more if they so choose, because Walmart's probably a bad example, but like if it's a locally owned grocery store and like that's a place that they feel is a good part of their community, the wealthy can pay more money to know that those people are getting paid good money, and the people that tend to be poor can tip less or not tip at all and can receive products and services at a lower rate than the market is demanding of the price. This is a progressive means of helping the poor and the middle class.
Mr. and Mrs. Walmart themselves, why they need my money? Why they need
It's Walton is the family, and it's all his children.
a tip? Any self-checkout tipping machine out there could suck the tip of my pee-pee. That's what you could do. And like I said earlier, I do tip my delivery drivers and waiters. I do. But I hate tipping. I bloody hate it. If I could abolish it, I would. I hate it. However,
he's really mad about something he seems to not understand.
I know it's the right thing to do. Or at least I was raised to believe if I don't tip my waiters, I'm a which I don't really believe now, but I begrudgingly admit tipping won't kill me. So I still tip. How much I tip? None of your beeswax. And even though I tip,
No, it's none of his business how much he tips, but I know that it's less than 20 to 25%, which is less than people his wage.
tip most of the time. I'm not gonna tell y'all you should tip. You could do whatever you want with the money you've earned. Like, I could be spending my money on helping the children in Africa and building houses there. But how else am I supposed to pay for my drip? I need money for my clothes, man. Those kids in Africa, they're not gonna pay for me. But yeah, those are my thoughts on tipping. Employees need better pay, so I can stop paying. And in conclusion,
Element of surprise. Did you pray today?
So in conclusion, Degenerocity, first time seeing anything from this person. You don't understand basic economics, and you don't understand that if you get rid of tipping, you will just pay more money. And you don't understand how the tipping is a progressive form of payment where the wealthy pay more and the poor pay less, that it incentivizes people to work hard and for hard workers to be able to pull themselves out of poverty and into the middle class. And for those that don't work hard to stay keeping crap jobs like, oh, I don't know, being a server at weddings where tipping isn't generally considered that common, and selling drugs on the side. Doesn't sound like they're really pulling themselves out of a bad situation with that. And of course, this idea that we should utilize only wages without tipping does go, it does stop one of the things that can alleviate marginal utility, which again allows the exceptional to excel and pull themselves out of poverty. And also in conclusion, we have discovered that you're funny. Your videos have a lot of, editing clips and hard cuts and kind of zoomer peaks and gain that is so common in your comedy. But you tip terribly because you think 20 to 25% is extremely excessive, though that is literally the numbers that creditcards.com gives for the middle class and the wealthy. Unless all your videos are demonetized and you're poor. I don't know. Maybe you're poor. If that's the case, my bad. So I mean, if you guys want to see any more reactions just like this, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Put in the comments anything that you want me to react to. If you want to hear like economics breakdowns or political philosophy breakdowns, you want me to respond to, some argument someone else made, etc. Let me know. Let me know if you like this format. We're trying a couple of new things, and I hope you guys please stick around. Also, if you sub to the channel, you're going to see a lot of debates. You're going to see political music video reactions. There's a lot of content that is available here. So please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And don't sub if you're never going to watch anything, though. Like if you sub, like watch some of the content. Check us out. Get caught up on the back catalog. There's a lot of stuff. We've been streaming for a while. Thank you guys so much.